First of all, a sequence like that, in which the curator of mammals and reptiles, Jack Lester, who you saw holding it.
First, a scene like that one, where the director of mammals and reptiles, Jack Lester, is seen holding it. David Attenborough is a legend who has spent his whole life showing people how beautiful our world is. He had a huge career and became one of the most famous people in the world. Along the way, he owned a number of very nice houses. But now that Sir David is 100 years old, the house he wants to live in for the rest of his life is not at all like the big homes you might think of. It's a big change from the comfort he had when he was famous. That being said, what kind of house does David Attenborough really want to die in? Why did he pick this spot over all the others? Join us as we look at the house he now calls his safe place. Time is a gift. What happened to David when he met a Jewish orphan named Amber? It's hard to picture a world without David Attenborough, but all legends have to start somewhere. David was just an interested kid in music growing up on a college campus in Leicester before he became the voice of the world. David was looking for fossils and stones in the ground while other kids played sports. He thought of every rock as a secret treasure. He also wasn't the only one with this goal. David was the middle child of 3 boys. It was clear that music and talent ran in the family. His bigger brother Richard became a big star in Hollywood, and his younger brother John worked his way up to become a top executive at a car company. The Attenborough home was built on kindness, though even with all of its joy. In the middle of World War II, his parents let 2 Jewish girls fleeing Germany stay with them. They became his adopted sisters and made the house a lot of fun. Mary Ann, one of those sisters, gave David a present that would change his life forever. A piece of amber that his creature from the past stuck inside it. In his hand, it felt like he had a time capsule. Even after many years, that piece of amber was the main subject of one of his famous films. But David wasn't just a thief. He also had a bit of business sense for a young guy. When he was only 11, he learned that the nearby college needed newts for study. He told them he could get them all for 3p each. He didn't tell them that he was coming from a pond next door to the department to catch them. From the start, he had the mind of a scientist and the drive of a business mogul. It wasn't until 1936 that David had his light bulb moment, music. He and Richard went to hear a man named Grey Owl, who is a strong environmentalist, speak. Grey Owl talked about how to save beavers and how people were upsetting the Earth's balance. At that time, no one was talking about environmental disasters, but those words stuck like glue to young David. He lived by that belief for the next 90 years. David got a scholarship to study geology and zoology at Cambridge because he wanted to follow his dream. He did his national service in the Royal Navy and was stationed in North Wales for 2 years. But his heart, music, never left the wild world. He was a man who was interested in many things, loved the wild, and was ready to show the rest of us what we were about to lose. This wasn't just a lesson. It was the start of a worldwide phenomenon. David didn't become famous all of a sudden, though, at first, he worked behind the scenes because his boss thought his teeth were too big for TV. He finally had to be in front of the camera thanks to some luck and an emergency at the last minute. The mistakenly placed star. This is how Jack Lester's sickness made him famous on TV. David didn't go straight into the wild after he got out of the Navy. At first, he worked alone and edited science books for kids, which was a pretty quiet job. David wasn't the type to work at a desk all day, though he quickly got bored. In 1950, he tried to get a job on the radio with the BBC. In fact, they turned him down. But that's how things turned out for him. Mary Adams, a big boss in the BBC's brand new TV department, saw his resume and liked it. David didn't even have a TV at the time, and neither did most people in Britain. In all his years, he had only watched one show, music. He still took a chance on the 3-month study. He worked full-time for the BBC by 1952. We almost never saw him again because of Mary Adams. Why? She believed that his teeth were too big for the camera. He started making game shows and even a show about folk music behind the scenes. But a person who loves animals won't stay away from them for long. He started his real path with a small show called Animal Patterns, in which he filmed animals from the London Zoo. It was there that he met Jack Lester, who knew a lot about reptiles. The two of them came up with a crazy plan. To get animals, they would actually go on a journey. It was called Zoo Quest. Jack got sick right before they were going to film, so David had to fill in as host at the last minute. The man with the big teeth became famous all of a sudden, and people loved his natural, laid-back style. David Music was asked to move to Bristol to work in a new nature unit as the BBC grew. David, on the other hand, had a family in London and didn't want to leave them. He did something brave instead. He made his own division, which was called the Travel and Exploration Unit. He was able to keep shooting Zoo Quest while also going to new places. This was true even when he took a short break to study music for an anthropology degree. The BBC would not let him go. They begged him to come back as the head of the whole BBC Music 2 station, not just as a producer. David took over BBC 2 in 1965, and the station was having a hard time. It didn't really feel like anything. David changed that right away. He got rid of the weird kangaroo mascot, music, and made the channel a place for cool and unique things. He planned a crazy mix of science, comedy, and music. David is to thank if you've ever laughed at Monty Python or seen a very important game of snooker. He even put tennis on TV just to show off the brand new color TV technology. On the new screens, those color balls looked great. The old white tennis balls were hard to see on TV, so he helped make the yellow ones. David made sure that his contract let him get back into the game every once in a while, even though he was a big-time executive. Among other things, he went to Tanzania to film elephants and into the mountains of New Guinea to meet a lost tribe that had never seen a Westerner before. These trips kept his love alive while he dealt with the stress of working in music. One of the best things he did as a boss was order huge 13-part movies, music, about big subjects like the history of art. These big projects were huge hits and paved the way for nature epics like the ones we see now. David really wanted to make a big show about evolution. One thing was wrong, though. He was too busy as a boss to host it. He was given a new job in 1969, this time as head of both BBC stations. He had to deal with budgets, board meetings, and firing people now. He loved trees and rocks, but this was a long way from them. When rumors spread that he should be the BBC's Director General, the top job, David called his brother Richard and told him he wasn't interested. He didn't need more power. He was eager to return to the mud and the animals. He finally quit his big desk job in 1973 to work as a solo broadcaster. Right away, he went to Indonesia to shoot music in color for the first time. He saw that most nature shows were about Africa and wanted to show the world how beautiful Asia was. This trip was just a warm-up. He was already writing the scripts for Life on Earth, which would become his most famous work, behind the scenes. His plan for Life on Earth was so big and expensive that the BBC had to work with an American network to pay for it. David did something else while the lawyers worked out the deals. He had shows about tribal art, journeys of discovery, and even a show for kids about unicorns and other mythical animals. The money came through in the end. And in 1976, work began on the nature documentary series that would change everything. David Attenborough's life has never been a straight line. He used to catch lightning bugs in a college pond and now runs one of the biggest media companies in the world. No matter what he did, though, from picking out the color of a tennis ball to hiking through the bush, it all led him back to nature, which was his true home. He told stories about other people for years. But now he was ready to use music to tell the most important story of all, the story of life. David did it with help, though. He had a singing partner at home who made everything possible while he was traveling the world. Jane Oriole was his rock steady for almost 50 years while he was making history, a bass for 47 years. What Jane Oriole did to make the Attenborough age possible. There's often a heartbeat that keeps everything steady behind every great man. That heartbeat for David Attenborough was Jane Elizabeth Ebworth Oriole. They got married in 1950, when they were both in their 20s and just starting out in London. Jane wasn't just David's wife for almost 50 years. She was his rock, music. While David was traveling to faraway places, Jane was making a home and family in Richmond so that David would have a reason to come back. Robert, music, and Susan were their 2 children together. Like their curious father, Robert became a professor at a university, and Susan became the principal of a primary school. But being the most famous ecologist in the world cost him a lot. David has told the truth about his one big mistake. He wasn't there for big parts of his kids' lives. He would leave for 3 months at a time. He also told the filmmaker Louis Theo that those months can't be added back in when a child is 6 or 8 years old. In the family, it turned into a running joke.